Okay, what's up, everyone? We have a new data pack, and since it's right hot out of the oven, I'm gonna do data pack review of the second cycle, which is business first. Joining me today with the review is none other than Sniper. Hi, Sniper. How are you doing?
Hey Ben, I'm doing great. Hello, Internet. How are you doing, everybody? We're settling in for another pack review here.
Yep, I'll try to do this every single time pack spoilers come out, and hopefully we rotate guests so you get lots of insight from the people that I know as much as possible. So before we dive into this new cycle, a quick review on what happened last cycle. So as Sniper, let me ask you, how did you find last cycle? What cards worked for you?
Last cycle was pretty good overall. I felt I remember when we reviewed the cybernetics that we knew Net Ready Eyes would be impactful, and that's about what we saw. So from the last cycle, I would definitely say the strongest cards were definitely, obviously, the number one enemy on the block right now, Mr. Faust. And then we have, of course, the Fast Advance, Equalizer, and Clot. So definitely those were the one and two from the last pack. It still just gave other power cards to various factions throughout. But overall, it was a very good cycle that spiced up the meta quite a bit with some of the cards that came out.
Yeah, the most wanted list impacted that quite a bit. And apologies that I meant to say last pack, not last cycle.
Oh,
Yeah, Kala Goda, my bad. So yes, I know you have been experimenting with Kala Goda. How have you been finding it?
great. The two sleeper cards are definitely Mamba Temple and Museum of
Yeah,
History.
the neutral
It,
corp cards.
Yep, they've created two breeds of various horizontal decks, actually three. One for Jinteki in the form of Industrial Dynamics, one for NBN with Near Earth Hub, and one for Wayland with Gagarin Deep Space. So each faction got a strong horizontal deck from those, and you can see them if you play online on Jinteki quite a bit, having to zoom out to about 50% to see the board.
Yes, I've been ranting to Sniper about that. You have been having some fun with your NEH deck, and I'm sure it's been seeing a lot of success.
It certainly has. Its nemesis, of course, is Clot, but it packs the
Cyberdex.
all-powerful Cyber deck.
Yep.
So
All right, so that was last pack, not last cycle. Let's move on to current business with business first. Card number one is EMP device, starting out the pack with a bang with a bomb. Trash during a run to force the corp to not be able to rest more than one piece of ice during the run. Seriously, is this better than DDoS? Not at all. I would
definitely
think.
not better than DDoS, but the fact that it's another red card that prevents rezzing is a little frustrating. Blue could use a little bit of love at this point in the game. This would have been nice to see out of blue. Plus, it kind of fits a criminal to have a kind of bomb to get in versus Anarch, where they're just supposed to. I guess it fits both, but just the fact that it's more power to red that I feel is unneeded at the current moment. But we also have to look that Caligardor was printed before the most wanted list, so this may have not been in that mind.
Yes, that is true. But even if it were a blue card, honestly, I don't think it's all that strong. How many situations are there where the corp resists multiple eyes?
That's very true. Most of the time, it is just that resin, that one stopper ice to keep you out and get you to go home or to punish you for stopping by.
Yeah. DDoS seems like sorry. This seems to synergize best with Inside Job because you will bypass the one piece of ice they res, but it's very narrow.
Right. When the fact is, I can't see if the influence is spoiled, but
Nope, it's not spoiled.
okay. The my guess would be one or two, just given its effect. But DDoS even at three influence and the right deck, DDoS is far more powerful, especially in criminal because you can go DDoS siphon
Exactly.
and then inside job the double ice remote and get in. There's lots of options with DDoS versus this.
Yes, EMP device doesn't allow you to EMP siphon, so that is quite a bit of a drawback. Well, we'll move on. Hopefully, there'll be more synergy with the bomb cards in time to come. The one is another ANR card. This one's a virus. It's a one cost virus because there clearly aren't enough one cost viruses in the game right now. And any thoughts on this?
So right now, looking at this card, it feels like it would be either subbed out for Lamprey I can't see running both just because the space and noise decks already feels really tight. But it is
Yes.
good. It creates an additional option for noise. Say you want to create a more medium centric R&D pressure deck, you can slap this on medium or sorry, on R&D with medium and kind of get the value of lamprey with medium together and force the purge sooner than the corp would want.
Yes, you pretty much read my mind there. I was about to say, if there's one deck this will fit in, it's Standard Noise, and it will probably substitute Lamprey. You don't want both D1 and Lamprey out because it basically calls for a purge. And you don't want to have too many viruses that are trash when purged because firstly you have to rebuild your board and more importantly you can't sell them to Aesops. I always find it quite annoying when the corp purges and I can't sell my Lamprey to Aesops. D1's more or less the same thing. How do you think this stacks up against Lamprey? Which do you think's better?
Given the fact that against noise, you're forced to spread yourself thin, that I still feel lamprey gives that threat that you have medium for R&D right now. That's a huge threat that the corp needs to respect. And then lamprey gives that same thing for HQ. To where, say for example, you were playing to win in medium and you basically only focus on R&D, then they can just leave HQ lightly iced. You might get some imp pressure in there, but overall, you want the kind of pressure that is presented from lamprey. So at my current thoughts on it are I'd still stick with lamprey, unless like you're going truly like all in on the R&D strategy and you really don't care what to do with HQ. But that just seems like they could counter that easier than the multiple threats from two centrals, and of course just the natural threat to archives with noise.
Yep, that is a very thoughtful response. I have to agree with you there. You are right. It does seem like Lamprey just works so well with noise because you have Data Sucker and Imp, two cards that really want motivate you to run HQ. And having Lamprey on top of that is just gravy. You can't really say the same about D1. You're right. R&D, if you have all in R&D pressure, why not D1? That's amazing. It's also good if you don't plan to run, but that form of noise is more or less outdated. It's it's both boring to play uninteractive noise and it's just not that good. You really want one of the strongest points of noise is that you're able to pressure HQ so much, and D1 does that, but not as good as Lamprey. So yeah, good thoughts there. All right, next up we have the newly spoiled CBI raid, which is Jen Erickson's card, the world champion of 2013. This one is a HQ run in the criminal faction. Add cards from every single card from the corpse hand to the top of R&D. Like it, hate it. What's your thought?
Currently, my thoughts on it are to be determined. I would really want to see what better deck builders than myself can pull out with this. Because I know I've recently seen the big boys perfume shop do very well with that kind of HQ pressure mixed with the keyhole threat from R&D. I could see this maybe as type of a one of or a two of in that deck, to where you'd CBI raid with your pheromones and eater credits, get the corp to put their whole hand in, and then start the keyhole lock. It's just I feel the spot's competing with an already ridiculously strong card in the form of Account Siphon. But if you are worried about a potential kill building up in hand and they're just waiting for that moment to drop the mid seasons on you, that this could really shake up their plans if you have a way to force a shuffle either through a Jackson or a keyhole. But without, I feel without a form of getting R&D shuffled, this card is not going to be as impactful except for maybe dragging the game out a couple extra turns,
Yep.
unless the corp is really flooded. But at that point, I feel going in with a legwork is just as strong.
Yeah. Side note to viewers here. Prior to this, Ssniper and myself did not discuss the cards. Ssniper has a lot of a lot of opinions very similar to mine. I am very on the fence on this card as well. It's very hard to evaluate its power level. One of the only two cards in this pack where I'm not so sure if it will be strong or not. It does seem quite strong. The potential to essentially force the corp to lose 5 clicks drawing cards. On the other hand, as Sniper has mentioned, it has some serious competition being a HQ run event. Account Siphon and Legwork very rightfully pointed out, you would play those two cards before you play CBI Raid, which not only costs more to play, but also doesn't do that much. You don't score agendas, you don't deny money. You're just denying clicks. So there are basically two ways to use CBI rate. You can use it either as a tempo stopper, as Ssniper mentioned, put their mid-seasons on their deck and force them to spend time drawing it. The problem is, it's the corp that chooses the order in which the cards go back on R&D. So even if you trigger off a mid-seasons, even if you're trying to avoid a mid-seasons, they can always leave mid-seasons as the topmost card. So that doesn't really help that much. The other option is to combo it with Keyhole, which shuffles the corpse deck and completely ruins their combo. At that point, it might just be better to import CBI raid into another faction instead of playing Keyhole in Criminal. Do you see this being useful outside of Criminal?
If the fact that it's two influence means that ANR can import it fairly affordably, but once again, it comes to the argument of, do you run CBI raid or do you run account siphon, or do you run CBI raid or do you run FEMS? It's tough. Like, I can see certain max decks that just focus purely on the keyhole and maybe not so much like the true economy denial.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go on instead like a hand denial with amped up with wanton destruction and CBI raid. But then you can argue the point of, is it better just to run wanton over CBI raid?
Yeah, they more or less do the same thing, except one turn gets rid of the cards permanent into archives. Yeah, it is tough. It might just see play in the neutral runners, I think, because they do have the most influence to spend. But even then, that's quite a stretch. It is quite hard to justify playing this card as of now. Well, we'll see when it gets dropped in the data pack. For now, let's move on to Tech Trader, another criminal card. This one's a resource. It's pretty cheap, and at 1 to install, whenever you use a trash ability, gain 1 credit. So it shares the same trigger as Guys, and it will be the number 1 card that Guys will want to auto include in their decks because it goes very well with all their trash cards. Note that Tech Trader is not unique. So you can potentially trash a Fall Guy and gain 5 credits and a card. Sounds pretty powerful, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing more to say about this card except this is a 3 out in every guy's deck.
Yep. It's basically Guys prepaid is what prepaid voice pet is to Kate for Guys. And I think this will be what triggers a resurgence in Guys decks. Criminals might become strong again with this. I'll definitely be testing it out. I think this is the one most competitive card in this entire data pack.
Absolutely.
Alright. Well, it's a very vanilla card, nothing much to say. Let's move on to NetChip. At least that's what the translated name is. This is a consumer grade hardware for Shaper, which means it's a 6-off. You can host. Okay, basically it's an Akamatsu mem chip, except that you host programs on it instead of contributing to your memory directly, and it can host each chip can host a program up to XMU, where X is number of chips installed. The consumer grade hardware seems to be a failure. This isn't very good at all.
I agree. They're trying to create this situation to where you can have this giant rig out full of two MU programs, but the biggest issue is if you're already trying to use really heavy MU programs through, be it Keyhole, Sneak Door Beta, Magnum Opus, or the 3 costs with Hyperdriver, that a lot of times you're already going to be playing some kind of combo deck. You have a lot of draw built in. You really don't need a whole lot of stuff hosted to get your combo off. You a lot of times only need the pair of leprechauns. That devoting 6 spots in a combo deck to get that much just to rig construction is rough. Granted, yes, Kate can play it for free. Haley can play 2 at the same time and get it out faster, absolutely. But it's just, you have to think of the cost to get that rig set up too. Where's the econ going to come from to get this rig set up? You could have your 3 to 4 net chips out. What are you going to host on it? How are you going to keep the corp from just throwing an ice behind a ETR and an upgrade to just score out while you're trying to get all this stuff set up? Yeah, Shaper is the best at stalling the game with all their tutoring they have, but I'm just very leery about this card. If you're gonna play MU, if you did a lot of times to get a functional strong rig, it's about 6 MU, and that's Nakamatsu's and an Astrolabe, and that's two good cards on their own.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. Um, it's kind of sad because all these consumer grade hardware seem to be below the power curve. At least this hardware is in the faction with Replicator. So you can conceivably, and Haley of course, so you can conceivably get this out faster than say Ramujan Reliant. Um, that being said, exactly what you said, there is no need for so much memory. Most decks do with fine with just 2 leprechauns and a console. You don't need 6 chips. And right now there are no 5 or 6 memory programs, so there's really not much use for it. The best you can do is hyperdrivers and a bunch of magnum opuses. I don't know. Seems pretty subpar.
Agreed. Like you said, that the strongest scenario I could see is you could have your keyhole out, your sneak door beta out, your magnum opus out, have a hyperdriver ready around for a big keyhole turn, and then your breakers and your other normal stuff. But like at that point, you're looking at a 5 install cost with opus, a 4 install cost with keyhole and sneak door. Plus, you need to draw all the cards in the right order. Say, for example, you draw the programs first, then you need to draw your clone chips to recur them onto the net chips. It's rough. You need to get these out first, and as many games as all of us have played, we'll run in those games of variants where we're going to draw those programs first. And you're like, where are my net chips? And you have 6 of them in the deck, so up to 6. Conceivably, you only want to run 4 or 5 because having 6 out is just honestly way too much memory. You don't have the deck space honestly to fill that many.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's sad. Hopefully we'll see better 6 offs in time to come. Highly doubt so though. Well, next we move on to neutral cards very quickly. Right. Let's start with Corporate Scandal. This one is a current, and it gives the Corp 1 additional bad publicity while it's out. I don't like the design of this, and I'm not sure where we are going with this.
It's such an expensive card to play. 3 to install, 1 influence, and the fact that it shares, of course, the drawback of a current, and the fact that the corps, oftentimes corps are packing currents now, and they're just stronger in general. And as many of the viewers of Ben's channel can see with his Looney Solar Flare deck, that he's going to have a current out at all times and overriding currents. So runner currents just feel weak right now. And the fact that you're investing in influence, and influence is so stretched in its most wanted list, and then 3 credits. I know I've recently seen a Haley kind of blackmail recursion deck that this card might fit in, but this is a very niche card. I can't see it just being generally packed in a deck and be like, hey, this is going to be a strong current because it gives me a bad pub.
Thanks for the shout out. Well, you called it there. This will almost certainly be used exclusively to combo with Blackmail. And at that point, why not just run Valencia? It's so much more reliable, and you don't have to pay the 3 costs, which is actually quite a big deal, as you mentioned. Plus the influence. I, I mean, I'm kind of happy that this is of a way below the power curve because that means we won't see too much of it. I don't like its design because when Blackmail decks start floating around everywhere, ugh, like I
Yeah,
mean,
that is kind of unhealthy for the game when if it creates blackmail recurs, and so in the essence they brought that in mind when designing the card. Obviously, with the heavy cost restriction, the fact that in a normal deck, just to try to get value out of this, you would need to make 3 runs and spend 3 credits for this card to become credit neutral, just in that aspect.
yeah, you don't really. I mean, yeah, it probably won't pay itself off. I mean, we can see Net Celebrity, the first Shaper current. It's one to play, and barely no one plays it because it's so bad. Let alone this.
Right, and that's one reoccurring credit for one, and it is a current, so it's going to be rough to find someone who's going to want to pay 3 for a bad pub, unless it, like we've discussed, is a blackmail combo deck. At that point, it is the Haley deck I was discussing. It runs activist support, and that almost seems more reliable than this.
You might actually be right. It does cost a bit more influence, but yeah, you might be right because yeah, it doesn't have the current drawback, which is quite a big deal considering everyone's playing NBN with fast advance agendas to get rid of your currents. Well, hopefully we won't see too much of this. Hopefully it'll just be binder fodder. I really don't like it. Populist Rally on the other hand could be interesting. You force the corp to start their turn with one less click. That's actually quite a big deal. It means that they can't score the agenda they were trying to score, and perhaps more importantly for Anarchs, it means they can't purge various counters. What do you feel?
Absolutely, that was going to be my first thought as well. With this card, it naturally synergizes with Anarch because you need the CD card in play. Every Anarch deck right now has Wild Side. It combos very well, and the fact that you can set up a big kind of you've already built up your medium, you have your data suckers running, you're getting ready to parasite down some ice, and the corp really needs that purge. That if you can't get that purge off by shutting down getting them down to 2 clicks, then the corp is going to be feeling the pressure. I can see this as a nice kind of one of, and you hold on to it for just that right time, or otherwise it just is always universally useful with every card in your deck for Faust.
Yes, as is the case with every Anarch deck out there right now. Yep, good shout on the wild side. That is perhaps the most important CD card to take note of, which doesn't really say much. Everyone's running it right now. So yeah, because it costs 2 credits and 1 click to play, and you're only forcing the corp to lose 1 click, you're actually losing out. To compensate for that, you must ensure that when you play Populist Rally, you have a way of squeezing the corp, be it as mentioned, either dragging the game out for one more turn because they can't score their winning agenda, or um, preventing them from purging, which means that you get deeper medium digs next turn or something to that effect. I'm not sure what kind of decks can leverage that though. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, right now, I can't think of a particular deck that would want to drop its current cards to fit even one of these in, but I can definitely see someone with a more adept mind with all of the cards and how they synergize together. Slot a couple of these in to really punish that lost click and give you that momentum that you would need. But that's going to be going forward. And I'm also, honestly, I can't think of any other CD cards right now outside of Wild Side. I would need to go Google it.
Well, the rest, all of them are Anarch except for one. There's one criminal CD card. The rest are all Anarch, and all
Oh,
Anarchs run.
is drug dealer CD?
Nope, it's Data Dealer, the one that
Oh,
forfeits an agenda.
data dealer. Okay.
Yep. Of all cards, yes. I have no idea why.
That should be on your next quiz.
You spoiled it. You totally spoiled it. I have the quiz ready. It's all lined up. It was going to come out this weekend until this hit. And funny enough, this was actually one of the questions. So pay attention to all of you who are watching right now. The next quiz is going to feature a bunch of CD cards. I'm going to ask you to name which one's the missing card. It is coming. It really
Oh,
is. That
I need
is
to
so
review up on CD cards.
yes, I was. I mean, it was very coincidental. I didn't even realize it coincided with the release of Populist Rally, but yes, that is the case. Yep.
Very good.
Well, so yeah. So that does it for the runner side. I suppose you don't have time for the corp side.
Not at this time. We'll finish up the corp on another day.
All right. So any closing thoughts on the runner side so far? To me, it seems quite mediocre. Not many good cards out there that would see competitive play. Maybe the one and certainly Tech Trader. That's about it for me.
Agreed. Tech Trader is the one I feel is going to make the biggest splash in bringing back Geist decks. And honestly, I've even seen a trash-heavy Haley deck that's coming a brewing. So Haley and Geist are going to take advantage of that card in various forms.
Interesting. Tech Trader is one influence, so yes, you can conceivably splash in Haley. That could be pretty decent. Well, thank you, Sniper, again for being my co-host.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben, and we'll catch everyone for the corp review on another day.
Right, see you everyone.